Allora, abbiamo 35 minuti per la nostra conversazione. Sì, non cominciate a prenotarvi ora perché altrimenti poi lo dimentico. E quindi vorrei cominciare io come sempre, come facciamo, con un paio di domande, sperando che possano essere utili anche per voi. Allora, volevo chiedere alle nostre ospiti che ovviamente qui siamo nel mondo della fantasy, della favola, però i due personaggi femminili sono due personaggi davvero complessi, complicati, pieni anche di sfaccettature, no? Con una cattiveria che poi diventa bontà e poi si rovescia. Allora volevo chiedervi una cosa molto semplice: che cosa vi ha incuriosito, appassionato di queste figure da favola? Channel 2 for the
We're going to
transmission.
fix hers, and I'll try to answer while we're fixing Michelle's. So the question is more about playing the complex characters and our choice of choosing to make the film, and that they have. And I think in a way the answer is in the question, which is that they are very complex characters, and so a real joy to play. They are. The interesting thing for me, I think, about the film is there are strong women. There are also very strong men in the film who are the characters that we love, that we learn from, and that support us. So I think both for men and women, it's a strong representation. We tried to have a lot of diversity in the film as well, and speak of the strength of that. And for the female characters, there are three different women, all strong in three very different ways, and all struggling in three very different ways. So women are complex, yeah.
Michelle, you have to tell something about that or no?
I'm terrible with all these gadgets, aren't I? I think, you know, Angie explained it perfectly well, and, you know, it's interesting that I miss Aurora, that she's not here with us today, but, you know, we all are very powerful and very strong and in very different ways, and in many ways we always say that Aurora is the wisest and ultimately the most resilient and the strongest of the three of us.
Un'altra cosa che è abbastanza evidente, poi lascio a voi naturalmente la parola, è che in questa storia si ragiona anche sulla dimensione della maternità, no? La maternità intesa in modo diverso dalle due protagoniste. Avete voglia di così soffermarvi su questo aspetto che fa parte del film, al di là degli effetti speciali e di tutto il resto?
Well, you know, in many ways, I think that for Ingrid, who is the Queen of Alstead, it's really her kingdom. I mean, she's really the mother of her kingdom, and takes it obviously very seriously, and has vowed to protect the kingdom and the people of the kingdom, and at any cost, really, and is, you know, and sometimes when you're a leader you have to make sacrifices for the greater good.
Angelina, you?
Well, I think Maleficent's character came to motherhood in such an unusual way, in that she probably believed she could never be a mother. And in many ways that was me. When I was young, I never thought I'd be good enough as a person to be somebody's mother. And maybe my mom used to say that's why I might be a good one, because it meant so much and I was worried. But she really is quite reluctant to believe that she is the right person for Aurora, and she questions herself a lot. It's probably where she has her least amount of confidence, is in her motherhood. So I find that struggle interesting, and yet it's being a mother that actually saved her life and gives her balance, because she's she's a little imbalanced. She's a little wild.
Con un'ultima cosa da parte mia, poi giuro, sto zitto. Naturalmente il lavoro di attrice significa interpretare dei ruoli che arrivano da un romanzo o arrivano dalla vita reale, a volte personaggi realmente esistiti. In questo caso ci spostiamo in una dimensione completamente diversa, che è quella della favola. Allora la mia curiosità è questa: ci sono state, se ci sono state difficoltà o ci sono difficoltà nell'interpretare personaggi come questi?
Well, I suppose yes. It's a great deal of fun, to be honest. It's very freeing. I imagine for anybody in this room, you may think I don't want to dress up like a giant evil fairy, but I promise you, it's one of the most freeing things to do. You know, you get wings and horns, and you get a little out of what your mind you play. And at the end of the day, being an actor, being an artist, and putting a piece of work forward, sometimes, of course, it's very, very serious, and you're trying to recreate true life. But in films like this, we recreate real themes, but we play, and we invite you to play with us. And in fact, it's very freeing as an artist to be able to have so much room.
Well, I mean, you approach it in the same way that you would approach any character, in that you try to find, you know, the humanity in it. It's obviously a bit more challenging when you're playing, you know, a fairy with wings. And I think that at the same time it is more fun in that you can kind of break the rules, because, like, you know, there really aren't any. I, of course, am a human, so not so much fun for me, but I am quite dark and villainous, so the challenge for me, and the fun, I guess, was to, you know, try to make her more than one color, try to fulfill my obligation of the film, which is to be evil, and to scare people, and to be threatening to Maleficent, which we had a lot of fun doing. But yeah, it's a tremendous amount of fun. But it's a lot of hard work too. I think in many ways it's harder because you're dealing with, you know, the costumes, and then when you're down, they gotta go scan you. You have to go to another stage. So it's like, it's a little more tiring than maybe a typical film.
Ok, allora c'è lì una collega che ha già il microfono, prego.
Hi, I'm Alessandra Tomasi from Glamour. I would like to ask to Mrs. Jolie something about motherhood as well, because there is a line from Queen Ingrid, and she said what actually made a real family and a real mother is not a mother of blood, as we see with Maleficent. And to Mrs. Pfeiffer, I would like to ask you, since we are talking about strong females and the power of females in every age in this movie, I would like to ask you if you may share with us the secret of aging with such a grace. Thank you.
Well, I do believe that family is not made of blood, and I feel so fortunate to have been allowed to have the family that I have in this life, and been graced to have these children and be allowed to be their mom. And I've learned so much from each of them. So it did, of course it strikes a chord, and we intentionally did that. And I think, in a way, it was the way Michelle really committed to, you know, that line stings Maleficent because of the way she committed to selling it, and she hit me with it hard, which I think was but I think we could do it in a way. We could have that fight in the film, because we are both mothers that are not just mothers of blood, and so because we have that in common, I think we could have that and go that far in that moment together, having an understanding we're both very similar mothers, in fact.
Yeah, it's one of those questions. I mean, you don't get exactly that question. It's a little more subtle than that, but you hear that from people. Your real mother, your real child, and it stings, and it's just, it's ignorance, really, you know, and that's the way I played it as innocently as I could. Aging gracefully. I mean, I don't know, you do the best you can, you know, it's, there's a lot of pressure on women to not age gracefully. We all do our best. You know, that's about it. That's all the wisdom I have for you.
Gloria, prego.
Sono Gloria Satta del Messaggero, vorrei fare una domanda a entrambe le attrici. Nel film c'è un messaggio forte che è un invito all'inclusione, al rispetto della diversità, quando si vede i due regni che si uniscono, sono profondamente diversi. Voglio chiedere quanto è importante oggi, anche per i giovani che andranno a vedere questo film, numerosissimi, questo tipo di messaggio. Grazie.
I think it's extremely important, maybe now so in new ways than ever, because we are, the next generation is so connected, more connected than we've ever been. Our children, our children's children will be more connected, be able to, it's only the last 100 years really with air travel, you can fly to each other's countries so easily, you can be online with each other, you can know each other, and yet we see this rise in hatred and people focusing on divisions and people succeeding politically by focusing on divisions, and it's ignorant and it's upsetting, and it's just simply not. It's coming from those who are sometimes trying to hold back the tide of something that they will never win, because the world is a big, beautiful world full of diversity and different cultures and different peoples, and we are strongest when we acknowledge that and come together and respect each other. We all know that, and then people use fear and they speak of ugliness in ugly ways about each other, but we all know in our hearts that we are equal, and we all know that we love living in a world that is diverse, and we all know that that's the way our children are going to live and thrive.
The only thing I could possibly add to that is that I do think that the younger generations are coming into this world with so much more tolerance than what we grew up with, and at the same time, you know, I do, you know, the intolerant parts of humanity have really couldn't be more loud now. More, I mean, but it's obviously it's always been there. It just is really coming to the surface, and so I think that, yeah, and the whole notion of diversity. Not only is there strength in diversity, it's, you know, it is a matter of survival if we don't accept that. If we don't accept that we're, you know, it's one planet, and those boundaries are more and more disappearing, and really they're just sort of more philosophical at this point. And but I do think that the younger generation, generally speaking, gets that.
Fulvia, prego, Fulvia Caprara.
Salve, volevo chiedere due cose. Dunque, l'altro messaggio forte del film mi sembra anche quello proprio ambientalista, cioè questa natura potente, insomma, che si riafferma continuamente, quindi volevo sapere che cosa ne pensavate su questo, che è uno dei temi scottanti al momento. E poi una curiosità, se avesse appunto la bacchetta magica o quel punteruolo che ha la regina, sia a Jolie che a Pfeiffer, vorrei sapere che cosa, quale sortileggio vorrebbero fare.
I'm focusing on my spell right now. The world would be a more tolerant place. Would be, I guess, a good spell to cast. Question, I forgot the first part.
Well, I think the environment, yeah. I think
the environment.
Which I think all comes together. You know, I think she's right, that the tolerance, the respect for each other, the reason that people are so careless about certain parts of the earth and the environment is because they have little to no care for the indigenous peoples on the land or how it's going to affect the future generations, and therefore they're able to just simply look at it as a business deal. And so it isn't just ignorance, it's very calculated and it's selfish and it's cruel.
Greedy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I do think this, we have many messages in the film, and that of course is one. And it's not to say that industry is bad, because of course that's Michelle's character, and she plays the strength of new and as the world changes, and we have all these new things, and of course being in the middle of Rome, you see how the world was, all that we went yesterday around and saw, the beautiful history of Rome, and you see where there was so much growth and change, and the world was developing here, and the new roads and the new possibilities, not to mention politically. And it's amazing, and it's very inspiring. And then you see what we've done with it, and where we've taken it, and then where it, and so yes, we can go too far as human beings, and greed can take over, and we can start to cause real damage. And so I hope that young people will feel that message of we have to be. It's not about leaving everything natural, having growth, but being responsible. It's important.
Allora, c'è un'altra domanda lì, ora arriva il microfono.
Buongiorno e complimenti per le vostre interpretazioni. Volevo chiedere, essendo voi due attrici di così grande carriera e di così grande talento, se non avreste voluto fare nel film qualche scena in più insieme, perché una sola scena ci è sembrata poco. Grazie.
I would love to
Yes.
have more. Yes, I did. Yeah, absolutely. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. But it was fun also knowing we were heading towards each other, and there was always this that we were out there. But yes. But you're not. You could.
We were just getting
You
started.
could. You could get back on your 2 feet in the next one.
Ok, Beatrice Bertuccioli, prego.
Buongiorno. Le protagoniste, diciamo, vere di questo film sono 3 donne. Ci sono gli uomini, ci sono delle figure maschili, ma le protagoniste sono 3 donne. Volevo chiedervi, non sente Michelle Pfeiffer? Credo che non senta. Devo ripetere? Cosa devo fare, Enrico? Devo ripetere?
No, forse sì, e forse conviene cambiare la cuffia alla signora Pfeiffer, questa credo sia anche la cosa più pratica, probabilmente. Adesso sta arrivando. Ok, grazie.
Pronto?
Dalla cabina provate anche a parlare un attimo, perché neanche Angelina Jolie, la signora Jolie sente nulla.
I mean, I can
La devo
translate.
ripetere?
Ok. Sì, prova a ripeterla, vediamo se adesso funziona tutto.
Allora, la domanda era per tutte e due. Protagoniste del film sono 3 donne, ci sono figure maschili, ma le protagoniste sono 3 donne. Volevo chiedervi se questo in qualche modo è il risultato di una piccola grande rivoluzione in atto a Hollywood dopo i movimenti che ci sono stati importantissimi negli ultimi anni, cioè se le donne come attrici stanno conquistando maggiori ruoli da protagoniste. Forse in passato magari sarebbero state degli uomini, non Malefica, ma magari il re, il cattivo della storia.
So since we can't hear, could you I can translate. So the question is for both of you.
The question is for both of you, and she's asking if, there are 3 women in the movie, and is this a result of the revolutions that kind of have been happening in Hollywood with women and how they've been gaining power? And if maybe this movie was done a few years ago, would it have been 3 men instead of 3 women?
No, that's 6 years ago. It was myself and Elle, so it was still a female-led film, and in fact, it's more that the villain in the film is a woman as well. So that's some, you could see it both ways, I suppose. But as I was trying to point out, you know, I think to us, the important thing is, yes, there are strong women, which I think, I do think it was just to the story, but I think it was also just maybe it will, hopefully it'll be received and seen and appreciated. The strength of the women may be appreciated a little bit differently today. But I also hope that the relationships with the men in the film are seen as what they are, which is how much we learn from them and how much they are our partners and we love them. And the strongest character in the film chooses very much to have a family and marry a man and love him, and he's a good man. And in fact, we all have interesting relationships with men. So I think that's important.
Michelle? Oh,
Well, I think that the film is happening at just the right time. You know, and I think what Aurora actually stands for is, you know, very feminist in that she really is the one who can have it all. You know, she will rule her kingdom, and she will perhaps both kingdoms, who knows, because now that we're joining, and she'll have a family, and which isn't really anything that you and I have really had. I mean, yeah.
And I think also it's that we made a real choice. There was a discussion early on in the development that Aurora would become tough. This idea that maybe you can imagine that she's going to be like Joan of Arc. She'll pick up a sword and she'll fight in the final battle. And we all thought about it and we thought, no, that's not Aurora. Aurora's strength is her softness. And it's time for the soft woman to remain soft as her strength, not to have to be a particular version of a strong woman. There's many different forms of a strong woman. A mother at home, raising her children, being soft, reading them bedtime stories, taking care of and loving everyone around her is an extremely, extremely strong woman. So I think that was very important that we wanted to put that forward, and so she would remain. She actually doesn't fight physically in this film.
Allora Nicola, prego.
Sì, la mia domanda è abbastanza generica, dipende dalle due, se vogliono rispondere tutte e due oppure una delle due. Fino a qualche decennio fa la Disney sembrava che avesse un piccolo calo sulle scelte, ma ultimamente ha ricominciato alla grande a offrirci dei prodotti che hanno un grosso successo di pubblico. Maleficent per esempio ha avuto un grande successo, sono sicuro anche questo. Secondo le due attrici, qual è il fascino che esercitano oggi questi personaggi proprio al loro pubblico?
Well, I do think there is something, I think it depends on the filmmaking, depends on who, you know, the choices at Disney or any studio. But I think they've made some bold choices. Doing the first Maleficent was a strong choice to take the villain and look at it a different way. But I will say, with so much content in the world as a parent, and maybe as a film goer, there's something about knowing that it's a Disney film. And you know it will have certain things in it, and you know that it won't have certain things in it. And there's something about that I think these days with so much content, it's nice to be able to say, you can safely take your children to this film, and there will be some nice messages, and it will be without some of the things that a lot of films rely on today. And I think that's becoming more and more needed, especially for young people and for parents.
What I also love about this film in particular, which is what I loved about the first one, you know, fairy tales kind of, well, film in general are reflective of the times, really. And I think with the internet, social media, kids are exposed to so much more than we were, and so I think that Maleficent is really a reflection of that, in that it really deals with a lot of the gray area, it deals with good and it deals with evil in a much more complex way, I think, than typically, which is what I think made this, one of the things that made this, the original, so special was it had kind of a, it sort of lived in the gray area a lot of the time, and that what is good, what is evil, well, sometimes we're both. I think it dealt in a fairy tale kind of way with more complex emotions, really, and which I thought was, I had never seen a fantasy or a fairy tale really like that, and it was so gorgeous.
Allora, abbiamo ancora una domanda, non abbiamo tantissimo tempo, quindi vi invito ad essere molto sintetici nelle domande, se potete.
Sì. Buongiorno, Patrizia Simonetti, Spettacolo Mania, sono qui. Buongiorno, una domanda a entrambe, si è parlato tanto dei tanti temi che ci sono in questo film, l'inclusione, l'amore, la maternità e tutto quello di cui già è stato detto. Volevo sapere da entrambe quale di questi temi, quale di questi argomenti appunto attualissimi l'ha più spinta ad accettare, o quantomeno gli è piaciuto di più di questo film. Penso per esempio ad Angelina Jolie, mi viene in mente il suo impegno per i rifugiati, quindi ecco, una cosa che magari ognuna di voi ritiene un po' più personale, che la tocca un po' più da vicino di tutti questi temi. E poi velocemente ad Angelina Jolie
Avevo chiesto la sintesi.
Questa è proprio cortissima. Se c'è qualcuno che, se avesse la possibilità, vorrebbe trasformare in una capra. Grazie.
I'm not answering that one, I imagine. More than one. Of course, I loved, when I was young, I was very drawn to Maleficent as a character. And I really loved the first script, so I was already in. She was the, I think it was the choice for Michelle to join the franchise this time. But we did question, I was very drawn to, when you have this, how do I put this simply, this idea of differences, it's not just the diversity, and as you point out, of course, my relationship with UNHCR and refugees and displaced, which, yes, absolutely. But also just, I think, for anybody who has felt different, anybody who's not been accepted, for whatever reason. And I think we all have that in some way. And that is and Maleficent is told she's not good enough because she's different. And she's kind of hunted and kicked out and loses her daughter and targeted because she's different. And I think that really, really struck a chord with me, that I get very angry at that people, instead of seeing the beauty in diversity and people really thinking how much they can learn from each other and how much value we each bring to each other, especially because we are different. But those who are afraid that then cast out and cause harm to others. So if we could say that in the story and cast Maleficent out and make her that, and then allow her to come back and for her to be not different, but be exactly her and return even more her, and for that to be accepted, is a good message, I think, for children.
I loved the first film. I was very excited to work with Angelina and Elle, and I really liked the script. I thought this character was challenging and something that I could have a lot of fun with. I loved the themes, and I knew by watching the first film, you could, a lot of times you sort of, it's a gamble a little bit. You have a vision, and then it sometimes ends up very different than your vision, sometimes very different. And but going by the first one, I knew that I would be in something very special, and I thought, the themes in this film, the planet and needing to take care of the planet, and our resources are not going to last forever. What really is power? What really is strength? There were, there was no reason really not to do it.
Allora abbiamo tempo solo per 2 domande, mi raccomando la sintesi, però per favore colleghi cari.
Buongiorno, sono Francesca Tulli di Fuoritraccia, volevo chiedere a entrambe dei tanti meravigliosi costumi che indossate nel film, qual è il vostro preferito? Grazie.
Yours were quite amazing.
I loved the battle scene at the end. It was pretty spectacular, but the most uncomfortable for sure.
Yeah, I was like nearly dressed, and then you had every possible piece of armor on. I think mine was, well, I liked the dinner. I liked that she chose to wear about 50 dead birds to meet the in-laws. I thought that was funny.
Chiara, l'ultima domanda, prego.
Hello, hi. Once I've been told that in Disney movies it's very easy to define who's bad and who's good, but I think, do you think that the real revolution now for Disney, for these films, is that there are so many gray areas and you cannot really define so easily what's good and what's bad, and sometimes even the bad people are acting.
Yeah, that's what I loved about the first film, and you know what that theme continues on in this film, and it's the challenge of playing any villain really in any movie, or any, you know, the bad guy or the bad woman, is to find that humanity. And I think it's the thing that kids really like too, and really respond to in films like this, because so much of your life you're told to be good, and you know, not even really knowing what the hell that means. And you know, we're a lot of things. You know, we're good a lot of the time, but we have bad thoughts a lot of the time. And I think there's a, you know, kids grow up, people grow up feeling a lot of shame for, you know, just thinking certain thoughts. And so I just love that it deals with the complexity of what a human being is.
Yes, I do as well. I think also what's nice about this is we don't just, sometimes it's the bad person is very appealing, and the bad behavior is very appealing. In a lot of films, they make the bad behavior appealing, and I think that's the thing a parent should watch out for most of all. What are the children going to mimic, and why? And what I think is interesting, for example, in this film is when you, for example, Michelle's character, she's wicked, and it's so fun to watch. So she's wicked, and she does all these bad things. At the end of the day, we explain that she's afraid. She's a fearful person. She's not a strong, powerful, all-powerful, brilliant person. She's afraid. She's a coward. And that is important, because for those people you see that seem like they're in charge of everything, and they're the boss, and they're tough, and they're in control, and they're so powerful and strong, to lift that curtain a little and say, actually, no, they're not so. And then yes, for someone like a Maleficent to say something that you might seem is frightening or different, but again, you lift that curtain, and that person might actually be capable of a lot of goodness, or maybe fighting for a very good reason.
Ok, io ringrazio moltissimo la signora Pfeiffer e la signora Jolie, grazie a voi.
Thank you so much.
Buon lavoro.